The pristine snow melts with the warmth of my body, soaking my pants. I feel a chill creeping up from my feet, draining the blood from my face. Inside me is a baby more precious than my own life. Yet in this state, things could turn dire. "Please let me in. Open the door," I beg. "Useless trash of a wife. Stay out in the yard," comes the reply. "But our baby." "Don't care, it's an unwanted child anyway," they say. My in-laws laugh through the window, then close the curtains. No matter how much I pound on the window, the cold eventually starts to make me lose consciousness. Just when I thought it was all over, something warm is draped over me from behind. As I nearly pass out, I see a figure that gives me a sense of relief, and I let myself go. When I come to, I am in a hospital bed with George by my side. "You did well, the baby's safe." That's a relief. In the morning, George took me to his parents' house where a crowd had gathered. Curious, I approached. There, I saw my in-laws naked and wrapped in blankets, shivering. "Sorry, so sorry. It's cold. Help us." They begged. Beside them stands John, glaring fiercely. "I'm Mia, a 37-year-old housewife, and I'm in my first year of marriage. Life has been tough, but since meeting George, it feels like a never-ending stream of joy." George is 39, 2 years older than me, and he was my brother's best friend growing up. I discovered during our relationship that he had always had feelings for me. Back then, I was dating someone else, so he kept his feelings to himself and just watched over me. However, when I was 30, my ex-boyfriend had an affair and we broke up. It led to George supporting me through 3 years of heartache, naturally leading me to fall for him. We dated for 3 years before getting married. George is incredibly kind, always valuing our time together despite his busy work schedule. Making our home comfortable and clean is now my job, a part of our happy marriage life. But not everything is perfect, especially concerning my in-laws. They were kind while we were dating, but turned cold after the wedding. Initially, I thought I had offended them, but learned that John and his wife faced the same treatment, indicating their resentment towards losing their sons. As such, our interaction was minimal, only meeting during the holidays. Each time they made snide remarks out of George's earshot. "Should have married someone younger." "Still no child?" It was depressing to be told such things so early in the new year. It was the first new year after our wedding. They complained about our lack of children, despite it being too early. My age seemed to be their main concern, whispering remarks about late pregnancy. Finally, losing my patience, I responded firmly, defending our choice to plan our family together. "Since we've just gotten married, I would like to decide on children together with George. I think you may be worried about giving birth at an advanced age, but don't worry about it." Surprised by my retort, they turned red with anger, regretting allowing the marriage and demanding a child. How impertinent. I made a mistake by allowing you to marry my son. Now that you know, you should have a baby. My parents-in-law's angry voices echo in the living room. George, returning from the restroom, overheard and intervened. "Dad, Mom, are you going to do the same thing to us that you did to John?" I came back at Mia's request because it's our first time getting married, but if you're going to do that, I will treat you in the same way as John. George: "There's a bit of a misunderstanding, you know. My mother-in-law desperately tried to make excuses while clinging to him, but all of them were nothing, and the wrinkles between George's eyebrows became deeper and deeper. Let's go home, Mia. You don't have to come anymore. Hey, George." Ignoring my mother-in-law's screams, he took my hand and left their house. After leaving their house, George apologized in the car, but I reassured him it wasn't his fault. He then promised we wouldn't have to deal with them anymore. 2 months later, we were overjoyed to learn of my pregnancy. We didn't inform my in-laws, but one day they suddenly called. "So you're pregnant, huh? Where did you hear that?" "That doesn't matter." "What's the gender?" "A boy." Though I already knew the baby was a boy, I had a bad feeling about telling her the truth, so I lied. "It's a girl." "A girl? Well, that's unfortunate. She can't be acknowledged as a grandchild then." "Go to the hospital right away and get it fixed." I was shocked. Fix the gender. I had never heard of such a thing. To me, my child was precious regardless of gender. "What do you mean? Is the gender of the baby that important to you?" "Our family has no male heirs. If you don't give birth to a suitable heir, it will be a problem. We don't need more girls." I was taken aback. Were we some kind of ancient dynasty? I wanted to scream. Holding back my frustration, I stayed silent, only to hear my mother-in-law rant about how any grandchild other than a boy was useless and adding more girls was a waste. I got to go. I'm meeting a friend for coffee. When that baby turns into a boy, make sure to let me know. She said that and hung up abruptly. Freed from her machine gun-like tirade, I finally relaxed. That night, I told George everything and made sure to tell others it's a girl, keeping it a secret from my in-laws. The following months were peaceful as I enjoyed my pregnancy and prepared for the birth. One day, a letter from my in-laws arrived. They wanted to apologize for their past harsh words and asked if we could visit them on New Year's Eve. George and I were hesitant, but since they went through the trouble of sending a letter, we decided to visit. "Mia, I'm sorry for what I said last time. It was very rude of me. I also apologize for my behavior driven by my desire for a grandchild. My mother-in-law apologized as soon as we met, and my father-in-law added. Seeing them apologize so earnestly made me feel a bit relieved. Maybe we could build a better relationship from now on. The day was filled with delicious food and lively conversation. Around 10 p.m., my mother-in-law suddenly asked George to run an errand. "George, could you go to the convenience store and buy some eggs?" "Is it urgent?" "I need them for tomorrow morning." "Mia, let's go." "No, Mia should stay. You might have caught a cold. Wait here with us." My mother-in-law insisted with a smile. I was in a good mood, so I told him it's okay and decided to wait with my parents-in-law. George left, looking worried. While waiting, my in-laws made some warm tea, and we had a peaceful time. "Mia, look, it's snowing." "Wow, that's true." My mother-in-law exclaimed excitedly. It was completely white outside. I was lured to the window by the beautiful snowy scene. "Let's step outside for a bit." "But it's cold." "Oh, it'll be fine for just a moment." My father-in-law reassured me. I opened the sliding door and leaned out slightly. "What?" Suddenly, I felt a push on my back and stumbled out into the cold. At that moment, I lost my balance and fell to my knees. I turned around to see the door already closed, with my in-laws grinning wickedly behind the glass. The pristine snow began to melt with the warmth of my body, soaking my pants. I felt a chill creeping up, realizing the danger to my unborn baby. Even though there is my baby in me that is more important than my own life, things will be terrible if things continue like this. "Please let me in." "Open the door." "Stay out in the yard, useless wife." "But my baby." "Don't care. It's an unwanted child anyway." They dismissed, laughing and closing the curtains. I pounded on the window, but the cold was overwhelming. Just when I thought it was over, I felt something warm envelop me from behind. As I was about to lose consciousness, I saw a figure and felt safe, surrendering myself to them. When I awoke, I was in a hospital bed with George by my side. "You did great." The baby is safe. Thank goodness. In the morning, George took me to his parents' house, where we saw a crowd gathered. Curious, I approached. There, I saw his parents naked and wrapped in blankets, shivering. "Sorry, so sorry. It's cold. Help us," they begged. Beside them stood John, looking as fierce as a demon. "John, why are you here?" "Mia, are you feeling better? I'm really sorry for the trouble my parents caused you." "Oh, well," John said with a kind smile. I was confused and didn't know how to respond. George then explained everything. When I returned from shopping, I found Mia curled up in the garden. I immediately covered her with my jacket. Seeing our parents having a party and sleeping in the living room, I wanted to hit them, but it was more important to get Mia to the hospital, so I resisted and called John. George was in such a panic that I rushed Mia to the hospital. Then I stripped our parents and threw them out into the garden. They were too drunk to understand the situation, and it was easy to push out. I watched over them until morning to ensure nothing happened, then called an ambulance. John added. His smile made me realize who the most formidable person was. The parents later confessed everything at the hospital, infuriating the doctors for locking out a pregnant woman, and were quite subdued. George handled all communications with them, forbidding any visits until after the birth. He also mentioned plans to sell their house and put them in a nursing home far away. I was surprised. On the day of their discharge, John and George took them to the nursing home, despite their constant complaints. "You won't have to see them again," George assured me when he returned. I breathed a sigh of relief, but at the same time, my anger began to boil over. I felt relieved but also angry that I couldn't confront my in-laws for disregarding our baby. I shared my feelings with George, and he agreed to visit them after things settled down post-delivery. I gave birth to a healthy baby boy. His weight was 3,000 grams, growing well without any issues. He was quite active, almost ready to roll over by 3 months. "Hey, George, I want to visit your parents." "Are you sure? Don't push yourself." "I'm fine. As a mother, I need to speak up for our child." "All right." George agreed and drove us there. The nursing home was, to put it mildly, not very nice. In the visiting room, we met with my thin and weary-looking in-laws. "What, you came to gloat? Wait, a boy? I thought the baby was a girl?" I smiled at my parents-in-law, who were pointing at their son in confusion. Then, while hugging my son tightly, I opened my mouth. "Long time no see. I came to introduce you to my son, the life you tried to erase under the cold sky." "Well, if we knew it was a boy, we wouldn't have." "Whether boy or girl, you have no right to choose life. You did that and got thrown out by John, and you still haven't learned," I said. They glared at me with a bitter expression. In contrast, George and I didn't lose our smiles. "Anyway, this facility is awful." "Yes, the food is terrible and it's dirty. Move us to a newer, cleaner place," they demanded. George and I looked at them coldly, realizing they hadn't learned their lesson. My mother-in-law, noticing our gaze, began yelling even more. If John hadn't disappeared suddenly, we never would have agreed to George marrying an older woman like you. That baby probably has some issues too. Suddenly, a sharp slap echoed through the room. Startled, I looked at George. He stood up and was breathing heavily. Across from him, my mother-in-law was holding her cheek, wide-eyed. Raising a hand to a parent? "You? What did you do to your mother?" My father-in-law shouted, visibly shocked and enraged. George responded with a voice so low it seemed to tremble the air. "Disrespecting my wife and child like that? You're no parents of mine. I want nothing to do with you ever again." "What? Mia, what have you told him?" My mother-in-law accused me, glaring at me. Despite being the cause of all this, she seemed utterly oblivious. I didn't tell him anything. Lies. It was the same with John's family. As soon as they got wives, our sons turned cold towards us. You must be conspiring. She claimed, deep in her delusions. I took a deep breath and let it all out. It's all because of how you treat me and John's wife. You call us old, refuse to accept any grandchild that isn't a boy, and dump all the household chores on us while calling us part of the family, and leaving me out in the snow on New Year's Eve. Do you even realize how low that is? You're just a wife. How dare you? There, you said it again, just a wife. Don't you remember you're a wife too? I'm different. That kind of logic doesn't fly. I said, her argument falling flat. She bit her lip in frustration, unable to retort. I turned to my father-in-law with a smile. And you, it's about time you stop harassing your sons' wives. It's disgusting. You try to touch us, comment on our bodies. It's enough to make anyone sick. That's just you being overly self-conscious, as if you're so pretty or have such a great figure. See, that's exactly what I'm talking about. It's creepy to hear such things from you. I had been fed up with his behavior since we were dating. Even after we married, his actions and words during our first New Year's visit and the recent New Year's Eve incident were beyond uncomfortable. When I told George, John also revealed that his wife had suffered similar treatment. As they lived together, her experience was even more blatant. I, like George, have no desire to have anything to do with you anymore, I declared firmly. Finally realizing their position, my in-laws turned pale and clung to us. I'll apologize. Please, you're all we have left. Yes, we'll leave everything to you in our will, okay? They pleaded desperately. George looked down at them with utter disappointment. He stood up, took out his phone, and he called John. Hey, John, Mia and I just told our parents we're cutting ties. What about you? Thanks for letting me know. I have some things to say, too. John responded over the phone, venting his pent-up frustrations and grievances, from their long-standing favoritism towards the eldest son to their meddling in his relationships and harsh words towards John's wife. It was a litany of appalling behavior. We did it all for you. We thought it was best. You had expectations because he's the eldest. That's why. Seeing them scramble for excuses was pitiful. Since I, a stranger, felt that way, George probably felt even more so. In that case, we're cutting ties too. Oh, and as a parting gift, I'll tell you my wife is pregnant. It's the boy you always wanted, but you'll never meet him. What? Why didn't you tell us sooner? Because you bullied my wife and Mia. You brought this on yourselves. Our hair, our long-awaited hair, no way. My mother-in-law wailed, her cries attracting the staff who led her away. George watched coldly. But you'll still see me, right? I'm your father after all. Huh, what are you talking about? Dad is the same way. You peeked into my wife's bath, hugged her from behind, etc. If it wasn't for you, I would have turned him into the police. I have no intention of ever forgiving you. No way. All right then. After John said that, he thanked me and George and hung up. After a moment of silence, my father-in-law looked at George with a questioning look. You're the only one I have anymore. You'll help me, right? We're father and son, right? George remained silent as his father reached out. George forcefully brushed his hand away. What? I chose this facility. I brought you here. I never wanted to see you again, and I didn't want you to see my child. It's because Mia wanted to speak her mind that we're here. Otherwise, I wouldn't have brought her. But if John ends up like this, you'll have to take over the house. What's there to take over in a regular salary family? We've already sold the house anyway. The next time we meet, we'll probably be in a coffin. My father-in-law just stood there, his face ashen, frozen in shock. George then took our child from me, cuddling him with pure love. Smiling at me, he simply said, "Let's go." And we left the facility. Since then, my in-laws have been living modestly in the facility. It seems the money from selling the house after paying for the facility left almost nothing, and their pension doesn't allow for any luxuries. The staff said they have no visitors and constantly bicker, blaming each other. Recently, my mother-in-law, infuriated to see my father-in-law holding hands with a new female resident, tried to attack her and fell, breaking a bone. She now can't live without a wheelchair, and still they blame me and John's wife for everything, even now. As for us, we're close with John and his family. John's wife is a gentle soul. We bake cookies together, visit our favorite matcha shops, and have become good mommy friends. After the incident, she gave birth to twins. It is a boy and a girl, surprising even the obstetrician who thought she was having just one. It's a rare occurrence, and both George and I were amazed but relieved that mother and babies were healthy. John is very doting and often takes the kids out with George. George is head over heels for our son, handling even the night wakings despite how tired he is from work, to the point where I have to insist he rest. He values his time with our son and is as kind to me as he was before we had children. Every day, I'm grateful I married George. As for me, I'm pregnant with our second child. It seems a girl. Enjoying tea while knitting baby socks with John's wife is my current joy. Feeling my baby kick and gently caressing my belly, I cherish these moments. With 2 months to go before delivery, I'm focused on treasuring this happiness and looking forward to welcoming this new life into our harmonious family.